The birds of prey really love to challenge the meta out here. Make sure you guys smash the crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out on more Oz content. We have the Colombia regional breakdown for you today. And this is actually, I think, the most interesting breakdown that I've had the chance to see so far. Because Flaunderies are squawking around out here as your highest represented deck. Now, I do understand that Cowtail did come out here. We did see one additional support card get added into the arsenal of Flunder, but the funny thing is, none of the decks were choosing to play them. This is just N-Pen being a menace as per usual out here, which is crazy. And we also have two Purely decks sitting in the top tables out here as well. Like, before you're like, Robbie, what is going on here? Like, what is this time capsule? There was a Snake Eyes deck. It got second place. And you're like, wait. Running the numbers, you're like, how did Snake Eyes... You know, it's pure Snake Eyes, by the way. It's not the Fire King stuff out here. So, you know, just because you have the best deck in the room does not mean that you're going to have the best turnover for this. That's not how that works. We did have a Kashtira deck, the best mid-range control deck, as I like to say out here. We also had a Centurion. You know, I do think that if enough players continue to play the power that is Centurion, you know, enough high rollers out here go, hey, you know, like, we can continue to Calamity Lock, you will see this deck continuously do very strongly, and that's a win. And then we also have Sprite for Hire. Excuse me, Sprite for Hire actually ended up winning this regional. So before you're like, wait a minute, like, you're telling me Flu Purely were the most represented decks. There was only one Snake Eyes in Top Cut here. And Sprite for Hire Time Machine 10,000 deck actually came out nowhere? Let's pass on it over to deck list. Winning your event here is, well, the power of Runic. I mean, let's call it what it is at this point in time. You understand that, like, if Runic gets a chance to start doing the things that Runic is supposed to do, the deck can get very out of hand very quickly. And especially, you know, if you're setting up Sprite combo lines out here and just, you know, I don't care how good you are. If a deck is drawing 6 cards in a turn and the opponent is like, wow, you know, like, I can't really do anything to this, the overwhelming advantage will grind out even the strongest deck in the room, and I think that's something that you really need to think about out here in terms of your meta. You know, the bigger spin on the meta is, you know, just draw a lot of cards, 5 head. That's all you need to do. Just the law of big number, and then randomly hitting your opponent's major resources with the Runic cards just wins you free games. Alright, second place out here is our Snake Eyes Duelist. You know, I'm happy to see that Snake Eyes was able to do the thing. I think the crazy thing about this deck, though, is they were main decking the crossouts, which means they were planning to play a lot more fire so that they could hit, you know, the higher notes, or, you know, at least cut off the hand traps so that they can genuinely play the game. And unfortunately, it doesn't really look like they had a good time out here, or at least the roll of hand traps that they were rolling on into here weren't necessarily like the best for them, which is kind of crazy, by the way, to think about out here, that like you're seeing only one Snake Eyes out here, and this deck is super standardized, you know, even like down to the Magician Souls in here to drop a Diabell Star for the free, you know, try to get some advantage, turn those crossouts into something, you know, if you're like mid combo line. And it just kind of proves that, like, it's kind of crazy just the consistency that you can see with these decks. Huh. Hello, third place. I can tell that we had a beautiful day today with Dimension Shifter and friends as we high-rolled our opponents on into Oblivion. We did play the 2 Thrust here. That way you can high-roll on into the Evenly Matched. You gotta love that. Love the fact that this deck is citing the Fucho down there as well. You know, you look at a lot of these extra decks for these flu decks, and they can be absolute jokes, but I think the ones that are the most successful out here end up being the ones that you can just kind of pull out of nowhere. You're like, oh, you know, like, this is a terrible position. Suddenly, Fucho turns on into Zeus off of a downer for 2, and your opponent's just like, what's this? And then, of course, this build is also playing the Dark Simorgh down there. We haven't seen a lot of Dark Simorgh fairly recently. I actually think that Simorgh went to sleep for a little while. So to see that, you know, we actually have Dark Simorgh kind of returning back into the meta here is actually pretty strong. Next up here, we have Purely. Wow. We are actually playing the Ghost Trick Shot in here. That's what I like to see. I do love the idea that this deck is able to get 2 Pureleys on the field and then turn it on into Utopic Future Draco because of the free little level up package that you're able to manipulate with that. Being said, though, Utopic Future Draco is a little bit of a menace this format. I mean, obviously it can be impermed, and that's like your W to kind of cut it off, but a lot of these other decks right now aren't necessarily finding options to kind of do that. This build also opted to play 2-dimensional fissures in the side deck, which is fine. You have your double, you have most of your side deck down here is pretty good. Also, not main decking the summon limits. I feel like we've reached that point now that you might actually want to start considering those summon limits in the main because, well, you know, it don't really have much of a choice. The meta kind of stinks. Hey, we have our Centurion Duelist coming down here in 5th place, and they actually played the Horus package. Ah, this is always a W, in my opinion, where obviously you take a look at the free level 8s that the Horus package gives you, and suddenly it's free real estate for this deck. I honestly, I think that's one of my favorite things I like looking at. This is just how fast can we make the Calamity Lock? How absurd can we make some of these huge high rolls? And I mean, you're on triple Mseti, the 1 Hoppy. You do have the 2 Sarcophagus, so it is the standard 6-card splash in these builds. And then, of course, you have your triple Crossout Designator, because we do not want to lose to the random BS out here that is all of this. Outside of that, I guess 41 cards is fine. I can tell that, like, obviously they had to play the Crossouts and the Call by the Grave to not lose to the random hand traps of the meta. Next up, more Purely. Is that Instant Fusion in here? We main deck an Instant Fusion with no card in the extra deck for the Instant Fusion. I have no response to that. I feel like there was supposed to be a Millennium Eyes in here for them to try out the Instant Fusion, or maybe they were just like, huh, you know, we'll just put it in here. But I feel like that's an error on the deck list here, but okay. We do have the Condemned Dark Lord down there in the side deck. We've seen that come up, and I do like actually seeing that card kind of get the chance to shine. You are main decking triple Crossouts here. We've all learned about this format and how bad those key hand traps can be. I mean, if decks are pushing, you know, 15 to 18 of those, you don't have a choice. You have to, if your deck is heavy combo, you need to play Crossout or you're going to lose. Next up, 7th place. Hey, more Flaunderies. This build looks very, very familiar, and I'm not really sure what's up with that. Still main deck of the Featherstorm, main deck in 1 evenly, so you can thrust on into it to blow your opponent out. Double M-Pen in the main, triple Shifter as per usual. Double Pot of Prosperity, triple copies of the Duality. But this extra deck is just double assembled Nightingale, I feel like, are your biggest things that you're going to go into. We are side decking 1 copy of Ultimate Slayer down there, which is kind of cute. I mean, with the way that this is, you have the Dimensional Vision, things like that, they just opted to kind of broaden their perspectives on their choice of side deck options down there. And of course, even like the Dark Ruler No More. It's kind of cute, actually. Once again, this deck is a menace because you have so many utility options available to you that your opponent's just like, I can't handle all of this. And our last list here is actually our Kashtira deck. Wow. Cash all the way back here. Poor mid-range control. You do see that we did play double Mourner. You have triple Ghost Bell in here. I feel like that's pretty normal at this point. You have the double Tack Talents. And of course, this build actually is side decking triple Dimensional Fissure down here. Like, your meta is so bad right now that, like, if Kashtira is looking at playing Fissure, you gotta take a moment to process. I see we're also playing Solemn Judgments in here as well. You gotta say no to the troublesome advantage that this meta feels like it's gonna try to grab. Wow. interesting stuff today. Please leave a comment down below. Tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here later today, guys. Peace out. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.